Hey everyone, so this is going to be a short video and it's unscripted. I hope you're okay with that. But anyways, I wanted to make this video because on the surface it sounds like something that nobody would really oppose, at least in the West, that left or right, of the Hong Kong protesters against the Chinese government. But I have noticed more on multiple occasions people on the dissident right in our spheres actually more siding with the Chinese Communist government because they perceive the Hong Kong protesters as either puppets or just agents of spreading liberal Western democracy, which most of us on the dissident right see as pretty much just as dangerous or as uh, destructive towards our own aims as communism is. The secular, decadent, liberal democracies that keep spreading things like trans rights, gay rights, atheism, mass consumerism, and the destruction of the family, we see as just sort of as bad as, if not worse than what the Chinese communists are doing. And there's sort of this tendency to see, well, China's based because they don't like gay marriage, they don't like a lot of social degeneracy, they sort of want to keep sort of a masculine ideal of Chinese men. They have a very strong emphasis on the military and on order. And sort of seeing these Hong Kong protesters as wanting to make Hong Kong more like Taiwan, which was the first Asian country to legalize gay quote unquote marriage, and thinking we don't want that. And I think it is a very understandable temptation to, given that the leadership in Western society seems to be so utterly against what we want or what we consider to be in the best interests of Western populations, to seek out any strong government or any strong country that stands against it, be it Russia, China, Iran, Syria, whatever. But I think there's certainly it's a grave mistake to think that we should be placing any hope or support in the Chinese government, because they are, as I said, just as bad, if not, I think they are in certain ways worse or just as bad as the Western liberal democracies. They're essentially doing many of the same things. They are, committing genocide and using replacement immigration just internally against the Uyghurs in the far west of China, against Tibet, against Inner Mongolia, against the Manchuria. They basically worship GDP growth. Like they want China to become as consumeristic and materialistic as possible, so they'll keep buying products. Like they're one thing that I particularly don't like is that they're basically contributing to the reason why American-made movies have to be so dumb and stupid now, is so that the emerging Chinese audience can watch them. And that even though I don't want there to be gay propaganda in movies and TV, the reason why movies might refrain from it just to avoid pissing off the Chinese government, that's not the reason I want them to do it. Because that's a really good trade-off, is it's not going to have gay propaganda, but they're only doing it because they want to appease a foreign communist government. And I mean, China is also just as secular and radically anti-religious as the modern West is, just in a more direct way, rather than sort of having society subverted to now just openly oppose Christianity. The Chinese government is they're just openly crushing it. They're demolishing churches, they're imprisoning Christians, they're driving them underground. Now, ultimately, this approach is actually good for Christianity, since the church in China is exploding right now, as opposed to dying a slow, quiet death in the West. But again, this isn't saying that, the Chinese government is good or is in any way something we should support, because again, this is the government that has enshrined on its money and on its most famous landmark, the Forbidden Palace, the biggest mass murderer in history, Mao Zedong. This is a regime that murdered 60 million people, that had driven Christianity and other religion underground, had basically tried to completely obliterate all of ancient Chinese culture, that is currently trying to genocide and destroy local regional cultures. they are helping fuel the West's dependency on mass consumerism. They're the reason why, the American and European working classes have been all but obliterated because of their cheap goods. They are, doing Lord knows what in terms of human and social experimentation with their whole social credit and government monitoring, and it's really not something I think is ever going to be something I'd support. I still think, and I don't have much to say other than China bad, China evil, but just saying that China and Chairman Winnie the Pooh are going to be in some way allies towards the dissident right is just ridiculous. And again, they're them being opposed to things like gay marriage and whatnot is, I think, wholly dependent on is not dependent on any actual on why you should oppose them in terms of them being morally wrong or destructive towards a healthy society. I think if the Chinese government thought that if tomorrow legalizing trans and gay rights would increase the GDP at all, then they would do it without a second thought. But as for Hong Kong, yes, many of the protesters want a liberal-style democracy, but you can't help but thinking the fact that they're singing Western national anthems, they're flying the old British colonial flag, the American flag, you have to admit that's pretty based. And the fact that a very large number of these people are Christians. Joshua Wong, who's been a spearhead leader of the Hong Kong protest movement, is a Christian. And I'm thinking that we're just going to say, oh, well, they want liberal democracy means that we have to support a despicable, horrible communist dictatorship over them, I think is going to end in folly. And I think ultimately that what we should do on the dissident right is certainly be opposed to both of these, tyrannical, modernist, materialistic regimes. But in this case, I support the Hong Kong protests because the fact that if it's going to ultimately weaken China, if it's ultimately going to embarrass this communist, materialistic dictatorship, I'm pretty happy with that. But anyways, sorry for this video being so short. I thought I would have had more to say on it, but I am planning more videos, particularly one on, maybe it might be a series of videos sort of reflecting on Advent, because this kind of leads into it, that I think, I want to save it for my Advent video, but in short, hating just sort of, not just the commercialization, but what I call the sappiness of the holiday season, when I think that Advent, having become a Catholic, trying to rediscover what that means, what the season of Advent means, it should be a time of prayer and reflection and charity, and basically all the complete opposite of what we all make it out to be. But hopefully you'll look forward to that video. I actually look forward to making that, because I think I have a lot more to say on that. Well, have a good day, and God bless, and have a happy Advent. Thank you for watching.